Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald John Trump, politician, media personality, and businessman, who is the 47th President of the United States. Born into a wealthy family in New York City, Trump became the president of his family's real estate business in 1971, renamed it the Trump Organization, and began acquiring and building skyscrapers, hotels, casinos, and golf courses. He launched side ventures, many licensing the Trump name, and filed for 6 business bankruptcies in the 1990s and 2000s. From 2004 to 2015, he hosted the reality television show The Apprentice, bolstering his fame as a billionaire. Presenting himself as a political outsider, Trump won the 2016 presidential election against Democratic Party nominee Hillary Clinton. Donald John Trump was born on June 14, 1946, at Jamaica Hospital in the New York City borough of Queens. The fourth child of Fred Trump and Mary Ann McLeod Trump. He is of German and Scottish descent. He grew up with his older siblings, Mary Ann, Fred Jr., and Elizabeth, and his younger brother Robert, in a 23-room mansion in the Jamaica Estates neighborhood of Queens. Fred Trump paid his children each about $20,000 a year, equivalent to $265,000 a year in 2024. Trump was a millionaire in inflation-adjusted dollars by age 8. Trump attended the private Q Forest School through 7th grade. He was a difficult child and showed an early interest in his father's business. His father enrolled him in New York Military Academy, a private boarding school, to complete secondary school. The academy pushed students into sports and taught the imperative of winning. In high school, he earned A/B average. Trump considered a show business career, but instead, to be closer to home, enrolled at Fordham University in 1964. He participated in the Reserve Officers Training Corps program during his first year, attending classes in a military uniform every Wednesday, but dropped it in his second year. He dropped football after 3 or 4 weeks, and was a mediocre squash and tennis player. His Fordham friends introduced him to golf. His junior year, he transferred to the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, most often commuting to his father's office on weekends, and graduating in May 1968 with a Bachelor of Science in Economics. In college, he was not the top student he sometimes claimed to be. By the time he went to Wharton, where he does not appear in a list of those receiving honors, he was eyeing a career in real estate. He was exempted from the draft during the Vietnam War due to a claim of bone spurs in his heels. Notwithstanding 5 years in military school, he had no interest in going to war. Starting in 1968, Trump was employed at Trump Management, his father's real estate company, which managed the middle-class apartment complexes Fred had built in Queens, Staten Island, and Brooklyn. His main tasks were collecting rent and making repairs for about 5 years. Captivated by its glamour and riches, 28, Trump asked his father to expand to Manhattan, where prices were higher. But his father was content in the outer boroughs. In 1971, he moved to Manhattan, where he planned to move the business, and commuted to his father's office. That year, his father made himself chairman and Trump president, overseeing 48 private corporations and 15 family partnerships. Trump began using the Trump Organization as an umbrella for the corporate names of his father's businesses. Trump's most important early influence after his father was his fixer, lawyer, and mentor for 13 years, Roy Cohn. Cohn taught Trump to think that life is transactional. In 1973, Cohn helped Trump countersue the U.S. government for $100 million, equivalent to $708 million in 2024, over its charges that Trump's properties had discriminated against black applicants and tenants. Trump's counterclaims were dismissed, and the government's case was settled with the Trumps signing a consent decree agreeing to desegregate. For years later, the Trumps again faced the courts when they were found in contempt of the decree, helping Trump projects. Cohn was a consigliere whose mafia connections controlled construction unions. In 1979, Cohn introduced political consultant Roger Stone to Trump, who enlisted Stone's services to deal with the federal government. Trump attracted public attention in 1978 with the launch of his family's first Manhattan venture, the renovation of a derelict Commodore Hotel, adjacent to Grand Central Terminal. The financing was facilitated by a $400 million city property tax abatement arranged for him by his father, who also, jointly with Hyatt, guaranteed a $70 million bank construction loan. The hotel reopened in 1980 as the Grand Hyatt Hotel, and that same year, he obtained rights to develop Trump Tower, a mixed-use skyscraper, in Midtown Manhattan. The building houses the headquarters of the Trump Corporation and Trump's PAC, and was his primary residence until 2019. In 1988, Trump acquired the Plaza Hotel with a loan from a consortium of 16 banks. The hotel filed for bankruptcy protection in 1992, and a reorganization plan was approved a month later, with the banks taking control of the property. In 1995, Trump defaulted on over $3 billion of bank loans, and the lenders seized the Plaza Hotel along with most of his other properties, in a vast and humiliating restructuring that allowed him to avoid personal bankruptcy. The lead bank's attorney said of the bank's decision that they all agreed that he'd be better alive than dead. In 1996, Trump acquired and renovated the mostly vacant 71-story skyscraper at 40 Wall Street, later rebranded as the Trump Building. In the early 1990s, he won the right to develop a 70-acre, 28 hectares, tract in the Lincoln Square neighborhood near the Hudson River. Struggling with debt from other ventures in 1994, he sold most of his interest in the project to Asian investors, who financed the project's completion. Riverside South 60, Trump's last major construction project, was the 92-story mixed-use Trump International Hotel and Tower in Chicago, which opened in 2008. In 2024, the New York Times and ProPublica reported that the Internal Revenue Service was investigating whether he had twice written off losses incurred through construction cost overruns and lagging sales of residential units in the building he had declared to be worthless on his 2008 tax return. The Trump Organization often licensed the Trump name for consumer products and services, including foodstuffs, apparel, learning courses, and home furnishings. Over 50 licensing or management deals involved Trump's name, generating at least $59 million for his companies. By 2018, only 2 consumer goods companies continued to license his name. During the 2000s, Trump licensed his name to residential property developments worldwide, 40 of which were never built. In 1970, Trump invested $70,000 of his father's wealth to receive billing as co-producer of a Broadway comedy, and lost the money. After making lowball bids for the New York Mets and the Cleveland Indians baseball teams, in 1983 for about $6 million, he purchased the New Jersey Generals, a team in the United States Football League. Trump and his Plaza Hotel hosted several boxing matches at the Atlantic City Convention Hall. In 1989 and 1990, he lent his name to the Tour de Trump cycling stage race, an attempt to create an American equivalent of European races, such as the Tour de France or the Giro d'Italia. From 1986 to 1988, he purchased significant blocks of shares in various public companies while suggesting that he intended to take over the company, and then sold his shares for a profit, leading some observers to think he was engaged in greenmail. The New York Times found that he initially made millions of dollars in such stock transactions, but lost most, if not all, of those gains after. Investors stopped taking his takeover talk seriously. In 1988, Trump purchased the Eastern Airlines shuttle, financing the purchase with $380 million, equivalent to $1.01 billion in 2024, in loans from a syndicate of 22 banks. He renamed the airline Trump Shuttle and operated it until 1992. He defaulted on his loans in 1991, and ownership passed to the banks. In 1996, he purchased the Miss Universe pageants, including Miss USA and Miss Teen USA. due to disagreements with CBS about scheduling. He took both pageants to NBC in 2002. In 2007, he received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for his work as producer of Miss Universe. NBC and Univision dropped the pageants in June 2015 in reaction to his comments about Mexican immigrants. In 2005, Trump co-founded Trump University, a company that sold real estate seminars for up to $35,000. After New York state authorities notified the company that its use of university violated state law, as it was not an academic institution, its name was changed to the Trump Entrepreneur Initiative in 2010. In 2013, the state of New York filed a $40 million civil suit against Trump University, alleging that the company made false statements and defrauded consumers. Additionally, 2 class actions were filed in federal court against Trump and his companies. Internal documents revealed that employees were instructed to use a hard sell approach, and former employees testified that Trump University had defrauded or lied to its students. Shortly after he won the 2016 presidential election, he agreed to pay a total of $25 million to settle the 3 cases. In 2015, Forbes estimated his net worth at $4.5 billion, based on interviews with more than 80 sources. In 2025, the magazine estimated his net worth at $5.1 billion and ranked him the 700th wealthiest person in the world. Trump announced his candidacy for the 2016 election in June 2015. He campaigned as a rich, successful businessman and an outsider without political experience, and claimed media bias against him. His campaign statements were often opaque and suggestive, and a record number were false. He became the Republican frontrunner in March 2016 and was declared the presumptive Republican nominee in May. Trump won 306 pledged electoral votes versus 232 for Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton. After elector defections on both sides, the official count was 304 to 227. The 5th person to be elected president despite losing the popular vote. He received nearly 2.9 million fewer votes than Clinton, 46.3% to her 48.25%. He was the only president who neither served in the military nor held any government office prior to becoming president. His election marked the return of a Republican undivided government. Trump's victory sparked protests in major U.S. cities. During his first presidency, Trump imposed a travel ban on 7 Muslim-majority countries, expanded the Mexico-United States border wall, and enforced a family separation policy on the border. He rolled back environmental and business regulations, signed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and appointed 3 Supreme Court justices. By the end of Trump's first year in office, 34% of his original staff had resigned, been fired, or been reassigned. By July 2018, 61% of his senior aides had left and 141 staffers had left in the previous year. Both figures set a record for recent presidents. Close personal aides to Trump quit or were forced out. He publicly disparaged several of his former top officials. Trump had 4 White House chiefs of staff, marginalizing or pushing out several. In May 2017, he dismissed FBI Director James Comey, saying a few days later that he was concerned about Comey's role in the Trump-Russia investigations. 3 of Trump's 15 original cabinet members left or were forced to resign within his first year. Trump was slow to appoint second-tier officials in the executive branch, saying many of the positions are unnecessary. In October 2017, there were hundreds of sub-cabinet positions without a nominee. By January 8, 2019, of 706 key positions, 433 had been filled, and he had no nominee for 264. In foreign policy, Trump withdrew the U.S. from agreements on climate, trade, and Iran's nuclear program, and initiated a trade war with China. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic from 2020, he downplayed its severity, contradicted health officials, and signed the CARES Act. After losing the 2020 presidential election to Joe Biden, Trump attempted to overturn the result, culminating in the January 6th Capitol attack in 2021. He was impeached in 2019 for abuse of power and obstruction of Congress, and in 2021 for incitement of insurrection. The Senate acquitted him both times. In 2023, Trump was found liable in civil cases for sexual abuse and defamation and for business fraud. He was found guilty of falsifying business records in 2024, making him the first U.S. president convicted of a felony. After winning the 2024 presidential election against Kamala Harris, he was sentenced to a penalty-free discharge, and 2 felony indictments against him for retention of classified documents and obstruction of the 2020 election were dismissed without prejudice. A racketeering case related to the 2020 election in Georgia is pending. Trump began his second presidency by initiating mass layoffs of federal workers. He imposed tariffs on nearly all countries at the highest level since the Great Depression and signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. His administration's actions, including intimidation of political opponents and civil society, reversal of pro-diversity policies, targeting of transgender people, deportations of immigrants, extensive use of executive orders, and his broad interpretation of the unitary executive theory, have drawn over 300 lawsuits challenging the legality and constitutionality of the actions. Since 2015, Trump's leadership style and political agenda, often referred to as Trumpism, have reshaped the Republican Party's identity. Many of his comments and actions have been characterized as racist or misogynistic, and he has made false or misleading statements and promoted conspiracy theories to a degree unprecedented in American politics. Trump's actions, especially in his second term, have been described as authoritarian and contributing to Democratic backsliding.